Libya with all the latest details from there. What can you tell us?
As you mentioned, these are reports coming through news agencies saying that the U.S. diplomat who was killed in Benghazi yesterday was Ambassador Christopher Stevens. The U.S. embassy here in Tripoli has not been giving much information about this. They are not confirming this report yet. We will have to wait and see. The Libyan government, too, has not issued any official statements, but within an hour, we expect to hear from the Libyan Prime Minister and the Speaker of the Libyan Parliament, who are holding a joint press conference to address this issue. There has been condemnation issued straight away after the attack took place last night, saying that this is unacceptable and this is not what the new Libya is about. This is definitely a big blow to Libya as it tries to reestablish its contacts and relations with the international community.
Jamaha, Reuters is reporting that the staff members and the ambassador were killed when gunmen fired rockets at them. What can you tell us about that?
According to eyewitnesses on the ground yesterday near the consulate, described the situation there as a front line. They said that members of a radical militant Islamic group did show up outside the embassy to protest. Members of this group said that the security forces fired at them, so they retaliated by bringing back their weapons, including rocket-propelled grenades that were fired at the consulate building. Clashes went on there for hours. Fierce clashes, described again as a front line and intense battle that took place there for hours. So we have no clear details on how the fatalities took place. We also know that there were also a number of Libyan casualties in these clashes. A Libyan government official saying at least one Libyan and 7 others, one Libyan was killed and 7 others were wounded in the clashes.
All right, Jumana, stay with us. I want to switch over to Mona Tawahe. She's a journalist in Cairo. She was been reporting from there. Mona, are you with us still?
Hi, yes, I'm still here.
I want to talk a little bit about the American ambassador to Libya, Chris Stevens, someone who was named just earlier this summer in May, but someone who's been in the area for some time. Clearly, he worked for the Transitional National Council. Clearly, he's somebody who knew Arab Spring, knew this country before, during, and after its transition. And I want to take a look at what the U.S. Embassy has said about him. He is someone who has been there at least 10 years, according to our Elise Labbitt. He is someone who has served with the Foreign Service, senior Foreign Service member. He's someone who's been an old hand around there, originally from Northern California. Tell me what this does in the wake of the Arab Spring for the, I guess, the sentiment for people who were looking for some sort of peaceful. Here's what I was trying to read for you. Ambassador Chris Stevens considers himself fortunate to participate in this incredible period of change and hope for Libya. As the president's representative, his job is to develop a strong, mutually beneficial relationship between the United States and Libya. Clearly, that strong relationship has been strained. Ambassador Stevens was the American representative to the Transitional National Council in Benghazi during the revolution. This is a sad day for revolutionaries, isn't it?
This is a horrendous day for revolutionaries, because our revolutions, whether they were in Egypt or Libya or in Syria now, where hundreds of people have been massacred by the Assad regime, they have been revolutions for freedom, social justice, and dignity. Our revolutions have often reminded U.S. administrations that they sided with dictators, and we need to hear more from people like Chris Stevens, who understand the region and who can convey the message to Washington that to side with a dictator against his people is the biggest mistake. And right now, what we need to understand is that these revolutions continue. They have not finished. Libya is still trying to recover from 40 years of dictatorship by the Gaddafi regime. Someone like Chris Stevens understood that. Here in Egypt, we are trying to recover from 30 years of dictatorship by the Mubarak regime. Here in Egypt, our Mubarak regime was supported by 5 U.S. administrations. So it's imperative that we, who belong to the revolution and who want to continue our fight for freedom and social justice, that we continue with that message and we are not derailed by this fringe right wing. And it's also imperative in the U.S. I am an Egyptian American, so it's also important for people in the U.S. to understand that the right wing in the U.S. must not manipulate this and must not turn this into an election issue. 4 people have been killed in Libya. This is not an election issue. We have a revolution here to continue in Egypt. This is not something that we want the right wing to derail because of a horrendous YouTube clip that most people have not seen. So I think this is a sad day all around for many people. My condolences to the families of those who died. But as an Egyptian who cares for the freedom and the social justice that we're fighting for in our region, I am much more outraged about what's happening in Syria and about the neglect of the Bahraini revolution than some amateur horrendous video on YouTube.
But I got to tell you, as we're sitting here and we're watching the American flag torn down and one burning, and, you know, we're waking up to the news that there are Americans killed, an ambassador killed, which, you know, is just outrageous. Can you talk a little bit more about this extremist movement and the minority that it is?
Absolutely. Here in Egypt, we have a president who comes from the Muslim Brotherhood, which usually was considered on the right wing, but now he has moved into the center in an attempt to rule U.S. business interests and to better try to represent all Egyptians. So those who made the call, or the majority of those who heeded the call to go to the U.S. Embassy yesterday, belong to the right wing. They are right of this president. And so we had a day of silence from a president who was trying to distance himself from those people possibly. In Libya, you have a different situation where you have the fringe right-wing minority that are armed. Those in Egypt were not armed, those who went to the U.S. Embassy, but those who attacked the Benghazi consulate yesterday were armed, and this again speaks to the fact that there are many groups on the ground who are armed in Libya, and it is now imperative for the Libyan government to disarm these groups and to assert its control over Libya, just as it's imperative for the president of Egypt today, Mohamed Morsi, to come out and condemn any kind of threats to foreign embassies, because these are considered basically the territory of those embassies, and to make it very clear to both Egyptians and the outside world that we will not be derailed from our revolution, and we will not allow a right-wing fringe minority to set the agenda for a country that is still fighting against unemployment, poverty, and a lack of freedom that we have, the freedom that we've been denied for decades in our region.
Mona, I want to just bring people up to speed who are coming, just viewing, waking up in the United States, or who are just joining us around the world on CNN International. But there are reports that the U.S. ambassador to Libya has been killed in this attack on the American consulate in Benghazi. And I can tell you that here's what we know. We know that the State Department was notified last night by the Libyan government that an employee at the U.S. consulate had been killed. We know that the State Department confirming that one of its officials had been killed. And then we know as well that a German contractor, a contractor to the U.S. mission, I should say, a contractor working with the U.S. mission, confirmed actually that confirmed to us that that person was the ambassador, Chris Stephens.
He had spent a lot of time with him, so he was able to confirm that positively for us. So we have reporters in Egypt. We have reporters in Libya. We are covering the story for you. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with live coverage.